All right, it's 17 for release notes time. I'm Jeremy Elder, staff product designer at GitLab. And with me is
Dan, Mitzi Harris, a designer at GitLab, doing stuff on the design systems team, and I've been very busy in Figma, uh, this milestone on design tokens, and along with my colleagues Jeremy and Katie, a bunch of new components. So first off, have a look at the full release notes on design.gitlab.com, but because we know that you don't read them anyway, here's a quick overview of some in a quick video format. Buttons, everyone loves them, everyone hates them. Rather than having to swap between all of them, you've now got a bunch of different options: confirm tertiary, drop down, icon only drop down, different sizes, change the icon from the top, need to change the text, let's go do some stuff. Completely re-architected from the ground up. Anytime you insert a button now, you should have these new properties. And if you want to go ahead and update your existing buttons, feel free. It's got the same prototyping features that you've all come to love, and stuff that helps your Figma prototypes feel more immersive. Do jump over to the component library, check out the documentation and all of the great stuff we've got going on there.
a note on icon and text buttons. Also, just to follow up, we added a note in Pajamas with more guidance on use for icon and text combinations. So those do exist in the UI, but generally it's recommended to use one or the other, either an icon or text. So jump over to Pajamas documentation and read more about that update too to make that more clear.
Thanks, Jeremy. We learned from Mr. Tolkien that one component to rule them all is not the way forward. So there's three other components for these specialty buttons. If you need a split drop-down button, there's a separate component for that, which has got a couple of different styles, text icon only, and it's a separate component for independent state control for the left and right sides. Emoji buttons have also been redone. We've got is selected and a slot to pop in whichever emoji you'd like. Is that going to work? Let's find out. And ellipsis button. If you use this, you know who you are. If you don't worry too much about it at all. But yeah, as I said, bunch of documentation, things to copy and paste from the component library if that is helpful for you. Another button-like thing is sorting. You can find this on the design.gitlab.com documentation. It's got options for up and down, change the label. Oh, don't push that button. Happy days. Off we go.
Next up is tabs. Lots of new features, lots of things baked into tabs, but it's so simple to use. I'm really enjoying this quite a bit. So we have our justified tabs. So in a tab group, you have the ability to have tabs justified true or false. When they are justified, you have the ability to fill the container width. As you can see, these will resize and the tab count anywhere from 2 to 5. Next up, badges and tabs. And this one touches on a new concept that we're introducing, which is a simplified version of components. So tabs are, for example, they include badges. There are many, many different properties and options for badges, but exposing all of those within the component doesn't make sense. Really, the guidance is to use this neutral badge. And so rather than seeing every single badge option, we've created a lightweight version of the badge component. So you don't have to really worry about changing much through that. As we look here, we see we have our tab count. We have the current tab. We can say, let's make that tab 2. We double click into here. We see our active selected item here. We see that it is marked as current. We see the rest state. We can adjust our states quite easily. We can adjust our text. We can see that it does have the badge, and we can easily update the badge count. So next would be the ability to have the overflow. And the overflow is something that it's typical today. We have that for some instances where there are cases where on a smaller breakpoint where your tabs are going to overflow. We've enhanced that capability and the control. I'm going to open up our prototype visualizer. You can see there's scrolling happening. You can see the scrim overlay and the buttons. We'll note that this is not wired up just due to Figma capabilities where you can turn on and off the scroll or overflow direction either way based on scrolling position. In the future, we may consider updating the variables, but that's really complex. And so I'd encourage you to do that on your own if you really need a prototype setting mobile scrolling. Otherwise, it is at least baked in for one or two directions to easily work with. You can see all the interactive states are intact, including focus. And to turn those on, we just simply check overflow left, overflow right. Really easy to work with here. The individual tab item, if for some reason the tab group doesn't suit your needs, there you have the ability to simply duplicate these. If 5 tabs by default is not enough, you can go ahead and add as many as you need. Obviously, follow the guidelines, check the guidelines. And on that note of 1 to 5 tabs, we just have tab count 5 as the default. We would like to know from you, what would be a good default for you? Would it be 3? Would it be 2? Heaven forbid it's 1 because then you probably don't need tabs, or 20 because maybe we should do some IA work. But if 5 is a sweet spot, cool. Let us know. We'd love to find out more about the usage of these and what is helpful for some smart defaults. Spicy take from Dan. Dan, do you have a spicy take?
No, but the default being one was the my highlight spicy take.
That's a spicy take. If you've got 1 tab, then I don't
Come,
know. I'm
come and
not
have a
going to be.
chat. Come and have a chat with
Come
one
and
of
have a
us.
chat. There we go. Come and have a chat. That's a good way to phrase it. All right. Up next is tree.
Thanks, Jeremy. Another highly used component. I know every single designer has this in their files. It is Tree. We've taken a look, applied some design tokens to it, and made it a little bit easier to use if you really want to, but don't feel bad if you don't. So now you can set the level 1, 2, 3 to create this nesting. I've updated the connector. So all you have to do is stick it in the top left corner and it automatically does all of the spacing for you. Level 3, one of those, no problem. Level, there we go, if I could count, level 2 to 3 over there. Seemed like too much hassle, just copy this and do some editing however you want. Next up, due to popular request, we've added some more faces to the avatars. These are grouped by photos and illustrations. If there are any extra you'd like to see, please do create a branch and add them. Whatever's going to help your prototypes and files feel the most realistic. Some other little changes. We changed the construction of badge. So if you were using one with overridden spacing, like the issue status or the pipeline status, when you update, the spacing will be reset. But it's pretty easy. It's annoying, but it's easy to get back to these unsupported states. You need to break off these properties, do your thing. Please only do that if you really need to make it feel realistic with these not supported implementations. One other little change that I'm sure everyone will be noticing and it will cause so much chaos in all of your lives is state for the label. Used to be 2 different things, state left, state right. It's now all one. It won't cause you any problems. Feel free to update happily.
All right, thanks, Dan. So one more thing, just as you go through the release notes, pay attention to icon updates and illustration updates. I really want to emphasize the illustration updates. Julia has been doing a phenomenal job of reorganizing our illustrations. She went through a process of organizing them by concept, by packs, by metaphor family, and as part of that, a lot of illustrations, you might come to it and say, I really just need something out of the box to use. And so Julia went through this fantastic exercise to create a root metaphor for many of these concepts we have. And as that, it's like a great illustration starting point that you can use just out of the box if you have something related to these. We're really trying to do more of a one to many approach with illustrations rather than one illustration for every concept. And so, because of that, there are these root illustrations to start with. Just for example, it might look like empty epic just has this basic epic design, but then you can layer on top of that additional concepts as needed, but still there's some sensible defaults. This is what the file looks like today if you encounter that. So you can see we have our basic metaphors and the extensions of those. They're grouped by concept. So thank you, Julia, for all of that work. You note that many illustrations have been removed and then others added. They are ready for you to use. So please, by all means, take a look at that. And if you have a moment, drop a thanks to Julia for all her hard work on these illustrations. I think that we have covered just about everything. Whatever we haven't covered is listed in the release notes. As Dan mentioned, update your files. There's a little in UI2. I don't know what it looks like in UI3 because I don't have it yet. In UI2, there is this little book icon up here. If you see a blue dot, smash that blue dot and see what needs to be updated. There is the ability to preview the changes per instance that you've used it. So go through that exercise, preview those changes, see what breaks, what doesn't. Also, contributions. If you have any pre-baked components that you would like to see out of the box, like Dan demonstrated with the buttons, if there are some that you commonly use and you would like to be available to the rest of your team as just things you can copy and paste out of instances, either for buttons or any other component that we've shown, please let us know. Illustrations, there's always opportunity to contribute there. Talk to Julia or myself. Dan, any other closing parting words from you?
No, thanks everyone for being fantastic. Catch you at the next one.